Welcome back to the Ruralpreneur Podcast. Today I've got Patrick with me from Hyperlocolgy, and he's going to talk about localized marketing for businesses in small towns or big towns. Wherever you're at, he really focuses on helping you localize your marketing with targeted efforts. So Patrick, welcome, and tell us your story.
Hey, Tance, appreciate you having me on. Uh, the story starts for my current company just 7 years ago, but I believe that the story of entrepreneurship probably starts somewhere in first grade selling pencils that I found on the floor of my class.
Nice.
Uh, it went from there and always some sort of parting out a bicycle to buy a better bike or finding some construction company that was overheated and would pay triple price for lemonade. Uh,
There
it
you go.
was looking for opportunity and not stopping at anything or any reason for lack of capitalization on it. So making sure to just always always looking for some angle to be able to provide a solution to someone in need. I have an advisor now. I wish I had known this earlier, but I feel like I acted this way. And in my trajectory, I was always looking to provide a medicine rather than a vitamin. So giving someone something that alleviated a pain or satisfied an immediate need that they had, being their medicine was a 10 times easier sales process than selling them a vitamin or an addition to their stack or whatever they were building. By alleviating pain, it was a lot shorter path to process. And that's really been the mindset through, I'm telling you, not from first grade at all, from like probably being in my mid 30s when I was exposed to that, but acting like that throughout, looking in retrospect, uh, throughout.
Yeah.
So,
No, I like that analogy, being the medicine instead of just a vitamin. And I talk about, you know, kind of healing customer pain points is what we're trying to do, right? It's not so much about the product specifically that we're selling, but we're helping them solve a pain point and heal or fix a problem, right? So I love that analogy. I'm probably going to steal it.
hey, great, take it because I think it makes sense to people, and if they start weighing, well, is this a medicine for me or is this a vitamin? You'll start taking a quicker path to closing.
Yeah.
Uh, and then it's a positive close because both people win. So that's ultimately the what we're looking at when we're talking about the impact we can have always on businesses, small businesses, medium businesses, small towns, medium, big, large towns, those individual business owners. There's a lot invested there, so they need to see a win, and they're not there to play games or look at models. They need to see tangible wins and being able to provide those to people, again, being that medicine. It's a feel good, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't have the ability to be a doctor, so this is as close as I get to medicine.
I hear you. Me too, man. When I was younger, I'm kind of like you. I've always known I was an entrepreneur, and I was doing little things as a kid, as a teenager, and growing up, starting little businesses, making money on the side. But when I was a lot younger, I thought, oh, when I grow up, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a brain surgeon, or whatever it may be. And then quickly, I realized blood is not for me. I'm a horrible patient. I don't like blood. I can't look at broken bones. And so clearly now I'm an entrepreneur where I stay as far away from medicine as possible, or that type of medicine, right?
Yeah,
But I can do healing in other ways. I can help heal your business. And
yeah,
and so yeah, I like that. I'm definitely stealing this.
awesome. But yeah, that's a little bit about my story and how it came up. I'm right now the co-founder of a marketing platform that really, fortunately, gets to impact thousands of local businesses on a daily basis with tangible results. Um, Hyperlocology was designed just for that, and working with franchise systems to provide just that little bit of guidance that often those local business owners are looking for when it comes to maybe marketing, because they
Mhm.
have the ability. They're great business owners it's
Yeah.
hard to be an expert in two things because you got to fully dedicate yourself to something to become an expert. And just in that context, you can't fully dedicate yourself to two things. So they're just looking for, hey, I need the roadmap to success. I'll follow your guidance. And that's what our platform provides, is that easy ability to launch.
Yeah,
That
no,
that was
I love that. Yeah, it's great because the whole thought of getting online and marketing and growing your business is pretty overwhelming for a lot of business owners. And
right.
so, that's what we do here is talk about ways to make it less intimidating, less overwhelming. And that's exactly what your tool does. I'm actually a user of this for full transparency. I like Hyperlocolgy. I own a coffee shop here in town. And so I've actually used Hyperlocolgy to easily deploy localized marketing strategies and campaigns for my coffee shop. And that's the thing, this isn't just about selling a product online, putting it in a box and shipping it out, but also, and I'm talking about the ruralpreneur, right? A lot of people have that misconception, but it's also about just helping local businesses in small towns use digital tools to grow their businesses locally. And that's hyperlocology is a great example of that. It empowers business owners to market their business in a fairly easy way and kind of stick their toes into digital marketing without, having to take a crash course on Facebook ads or YouTube or Google or what have you.
Terrence, you're the man. That was so nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. But I'd love to also share just a little bit of information that's maybe outside of what hyperlocology does, but still follows in line with our premise. And so, something that is always important when we're talking about marketing is making sure that there's a full funnel presence. And so, hyperlocology or not, that's something that your listeners can take away, is understanding that there are three distinct portions of that marketing funnel. It's the lowest of those being intent, the middle level being consideration, and that top level of the funnel being awareness. And each one of them plays into the other. And having one without the others is really a bad recipe for potential waste or lack of overall potential gain.
Yeah.
So when I can talk to anyone, whether they work with the company that I'm with or they do it their self, it still rings true that marketing is not a spray and pray. It's a recipe, and if you follow it, you can have success, and that's through creating awareness, but always having a search presence to capture those people when they're ready to convert. But that's just one of the small things that can be paid attention to in executing your local marketing, is just ensuring that you have awareness channels. You're retargeting people that visit your website, and then you're appearing on Google search uh, whenever people are ready to convert.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the thing is, and I think that's where things though sometimes for people start getting a little bit overwhelming or intimidating as they think,
Totally.
okay, well, if I've got to have this funnel and I've got to be on every platform in terms of
Yep.
awareness and then consideration and then intent, how do I line all of that out? How do I execute this? How do I do it properly without wasting maybe scarce dollars that they are putting into marketing? I know a lot of business owners sometimes neglect their marketing budgets more than they should.
Totally.
But when marketing dollars are used effectively, you quickly see that, and then you want to put more into it because you see the results from it. So you're right. That funnel is important. You can't just spray and pray. You can't just throw up an ad somewhere and assume that it's going to work, but you have to really have that entire strategy and game plan behind it. And I know we're getting a little more tactical, and we haven't focused on your story a lot, but it's really valuable because you get this, you understand this. You're specifically a business owner who owns a marketing agency of sorts, and so this is a very useful information for our listeners. So I appreciate you kind of outlining that. I know that I'm a visual learner, and this has already given me some ideas around drawing some visual aids to help people see this in a visual form. And so I'm probably going to be doing that as well to post on my site soon. But no, I thank you for outlining that and kind of kind of showcasing how that works. And that's the same thing that hyperlocology does as well, not to go back to the tool constantly and promote, but
Yeah.
it makes sense because you have all of those built-in programs and strategies inside of your app that make it pretty easy for people to build out that funnel without them having to figure out where to start.
Yeah, yeah. If you give me 4 more seconds on this, what you brought up was a good point. Is I made that funnel sound like it's cake, right? And that can be the intimidating part.
Mhm.
Just saying, I got to have 3 channels live. This is really, really tactical advice, but if I have $1, I'm spending it on Google search. If I
Mhm.
have $2, I'm spending it on retargeting people that have been to my site. And if I have $3, only at that point do I start making people aware of my product that have audience attributes of my best converting customers. So
Yeah.
walking into that funnel from the bottom, it's sort of like walking into a pool that has an angle on it. It's a lot easier than jumping into the deep end. So biting that, eating that whale one bite at a time. Start that bite at Google search. It's the highest signal of intent, and it
Yeah.
really can help aim where your efforts go. You find out what people are searching for that get to your site. You can tailor your marketing in the future to that.
Yeah. And just for anybody who's listening to this who may not fully grasp the concept of intent and why Google search versus Facebook, with Google search, you've got to think, if I go to Google, I have a reason I'm going there and I'm already looking for something. I'm seeking it out. I'm searching for it, right?
Yeah.
Versus if I'm on Facebook, I'm leisurely scrolling. I'm not specifically looking for anything. So when I see an ad on Facebook, I see it, oh, maybe it's interesting, maybe it's not. I'm not in the mindset of pursuing that. But when a user goes to Google, they are going and searching for something. Their intent level is much higher to make that decision, to make
Hmm.
that purchase, to visit that website. Also, in today's age, a lot of people use YouTube and Amazon as search engines. YouTube definitely is a search engine, but even Amazon, they're going there looking for something. They're not just hanging out usually,
You
right? And
nailed
so
it.
that's how you have to look also at your funnel when you talk about intent. And so what Patrick's kind of saying is, hey, if you've only got a few dollars to spend, let's spend it in the most strategic way that can bring in more dollars that we can then start to maybe throw some at awareness and lower intent level efforts.
You're the man, Tance.
So Patrick,
Yes.
tell us as an entrepreneur and in your journey, tell me kind of like the most inspirational, motivational, or pivotal moment story that you have that's just kind of exciting for listeners to hear.
Yeah. So I have definitely a moment that I can attribute to probably a springboard to my success, or at least my perceived success, right? Um, I was working directly out of school for a buddy's dad's company, a publishing company, as an account manager, and I was happy. I was fine. I was getting exposed to things that maybe expanded what I was necessarily in charge of, but I wasn't taking ownership of it. I wasn't taking that toe dip in the water and maybe feeling if it gets warmer and checking again. I was really complacent, and I had a gentleman, Gary Strauss, who called me up at 1 o'clock after being out with some customers, I believe, and he said, "Pleiss, what are you doing?" He's like, "You got so much potential. You got so much uh, gumption. You want to do this. What are you waiting for? What are you sitting back and waiting for? You're never going to get a golden invitation. You're never going to get the perfect opportunity to do something. You need to be able to fall forward." And I believe that's not a quote from him, but you need to be able to take that chance and trust yourself and trust your ability. And not everyone is going to give you that affirming phone call at 1 in the morning, but I fortunately got that literal wake up call to say, "Hey, it's worth taking the chance. You typically already know that you are that person who will complete, that will follow through, that wants to try, that wants to test." And I got a phone call at 1 a.m. that was my change. And
Wow.
so what I did was start applying myself. And it wasn't anything in a very specific manner. It was across everything. It was really taking opportunities and saying, can I take this further? Can I deliver a little bit more? Can I surprise someone with just an ounce more effort than what they expected? And from that point, it was eye-opening that there was nothing that could stop. If you just gave a little bit extra, people offered a lot more back to you. And so
Yeah.
that was the catalyst for me that set me on my trajectory, I believe, to really taking the risk of, starting a company with a co-founder and, doing it at a time that may not have been ideal for my life, but it was when the opportunity was there, and having had that conversation of trust yourself, trust your ability. Uh, it was a real factor that played in, not only when I heard it, but when I viewed anything, became through the lens of, hey, why not, rather than I don't really have to do that. It became a why not. But that
Right.
that was it. Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man. And I try to post at times online about what I call like a gratitude post, and just name somebody who helped me in my journey and moving forward and helped me advance. And it sounds like Gary here is one of those people for you who
Oh
kind of was the guy who said, "Hey, you need to wake up and let's get after it."
yeah.
And I've got people in my life just like that, and I'm trying to do a better job of acknowledging them in public and telling them thank you for for helping me. And so I thank you, Gary, for putting Patrick on this path, because he's helped me.
Yeah.
So because of Gary, it's trickled down to myself and thousands of other business owners. So
That's
kudos
awesome.
to Gary.
Yeah, he is the man. Always motivational guy, really smart. But yeah, thanks for the love for him.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right. Well, let's move on to our last kind of segment, I guess you would say, which is we want to hear a marketing strategy, tactic, tip, hack that you can share, which we've already talked about some stuff
Yeah.
already, but something that you can implement in or that you've implemented in your business that can be applied to maybe one of the listeners' businesses as well. Something they can take and use to improve their marketing or scale or growth tactics.
Yeah. I have one that is one click, a tip. And oftentimes when businesses are running their own local marketing and they're setting up whichever channel, multi, single, there's a single toggle in that setup that says, would you like to reach audiences across other channels that have similar identities to our network? So basically, an audience extension
Mhm.
option. Leaving that toggled, I believe, is the default. And it's our experience that there's upwards of 75% fraud when that toggle is opted into.
Wow.
So when it comes to click fraud, potential ad waste, bot farms, just imagine that is what these audience extension networks often have. Not to name any specifically, not to say any real beef around it. There's some stats and some data that you can find very readily. But I'm
Okay.
not here to talk poorly on any channel. But if you just untoggle that audience extension, you're going to be spending your money in more qualified and actual real audiences, rather than maybe getting a few extra clicks that you can't really quantify. I think
Gotcha.
that's a money saving and better output driving effort. So for me, that's a twofold one click optimization. And that's found across most of those self service advertising portals.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen those myself, and I've had it on before. Most of the time, I don't use it, so that's good advice. It's something I'm going to be thinking about going forward. I know that it always concerns me because it's like, well, how are you determining the audience extension? Because I've already told you who I want to see, and so
Yep.
there's just a little bit of of kind of opacity around what is that
100%.
audience extension, and so I
Just
hear you.
trust
The
it.
opposite of transparency, it's kind of questionable.
Exactly.
Interesting, interesting. All right. Well, anything else, Patrick, you want to share with us before we wrap it up?
I think we've covered a lot of good stuff. Terrence, I'll send you over a link to that stat about those audience extensions. So if you wanted to post that or create a visual around that too, it would be helpful. But no, this
Absolutely.
has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, man. Well, I appreciate you sharing that knowledge. You got a lot of valuable stuff up there in that head, and I hope that our audience is able to take something away from this, and be able to move their business forward. So, thank you very much, Patrick.
For sure. Thanks, Terrence.
All right. Well, everybody, that's it for today. The Ruralpreneur Podcast. Go to our website, theruralpreneur.com. You can see all of our articles, subscribe to our newsletter. And then, of course, you can find Patrick at Hyperlocolgy, where he helps local franchisees in towns of all sizes across the country create easy advertising efforts to drive traffic to their locations, their franchise locations. So have a great day, and we'll see you next time.